Here are 3 awesome tips that'll get you hitting great topspin forehands. Number 1, show your back to your opponent. When the ball is on its way to you, obviously your opponent can see your chest. But as you see the ball is coming to your forehand side, you're going to rotate the body with both hands on, and you're going to show your back to your opponent, hiding your chest just before you drop the racket and then rotate. At the time you contact, your opponent should see your chest, but your opponent should not see your chest at the end of the unit turn. So it should not look like this. Notice you can see my chest. You can see the Adidas logo the whole time. Should look like this. I'm showing you my back. Now I'm showing you my chest. My back, then my chest. You have a Topspin Pro, do this the moment you're done watching this video. Show your back. And you do that by turning with your non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket. That's going to facilitate that unit turn, and then you can uncoil from that point. Tip number 2, close your racket face just before you strike the ball. This is critical. You have to make sure that before you hit the ball, your strings are closed at about 45 degrees. Doesn't matter if you have an Eastern grip or a full Western grip, you need your strings down. The amount that your strings are down will vary based on the grip that you use and how much spin you're trying to put on the ball. But the idea is the same. You've got to have your strings closed and go toward the ball with a closed racket face as you swing low to high. Here's what ends up happening if you don't close your racket face. Your racket will be straight up and down in the back, and then your racket will be open when you strike the ball. This is why beginners always hit the ball out over the fence, because they think, well, I want my racket straight up and down when I hit, so I'm going to have my racket straight up and down in the back. What they don't know is it leads to the racket being open when they strike. And you have 2 choices. You can either try to roll the racket, or that idea of roll over the ball for topspin, which just doesn't work because the strings don't face long enough for it to be anything that you could actually control and have be dependable. Or you can really fix the problem at the source, which is tilt your strings down. You simply do that by turning your palm toward the ground. So if you combine the first 2, it is show your back to your opponent. The second is close your racket face, and it looks like this. Show the back, close the face, hit. This is how you become super consistent. Number 3, it's really a 2-parter, all right? Wave to your opponent when you're striking the ball. So don't have your non-hitting hand down here or behind you or out over here. Wave to the opponent as you're striking the ball. And then I want you to put the racket in that non-hitting hand and remove your hitting hand as a way of making sure that you were waving. I taught you at the beginning how to coil. I have to make sure that you can now uncoil. And it is the non-hitting hand's job, or arm, it is that arm's job to help facilitate the uncoiling. So we use the non-hitting hand to rotate and show our back. Then we're going to obviously close the racket face. Now we have to move the non-hitting hand forward, and at contact we're going to wave. This makes sure that we're not impeding hip and shoulder rotation. See, beginners and players who struggle rotating their hips, they always have a low non-hitting hand. If you're someone who you've taken lessons and the pros like, oh, you got to turn your hips, you got to turn your hips, look at video footage of your forehand. I'm willing to bet you have a low non-hitting hand. When your non-hitting hand drops, it tends to force you to hug yourself or draw an X in front of you, which stops the body's rotation, and you cannot swing through properly. What you want to do is move that non-hitting arm forward as the racket's dropping when it's going to close, and at contact, you look like you're waving when you hit the ball. This makes sure that you clear that non-hitting arm out of the way, clearing the body for the uncoiling, and then just to make sure that you did it, catch the racket in that hand, and then just let go to make sure that you did it. So it looks like this. Turn with both hands, show the back, close the racket face, you wave at contact, and then you put the racket in that hand to make sure that you did it right. Obviously, you're not going to do this when you're playing a match, catching the racket and letting go. but it's just a swing thought and a way to work on it at home just to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So click right there to check out the Topspin Pro and go out and work on these simple forehand tips. If you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.